Hello, and welcome to Crocheting with the Classics. Today, we're going to be reading the poem The Spelling Bee at Angels by Bret Hart. Waltz in, ye little kids, and gather round my knee, and drop them books and first pothooks, and hear a yarn from me. I cannot sling a fairy tale of Jennies fierce and wild, for I hold it is unchristian to deceive a simple child. But as from school you're driftin' by, I thought you'd like to hear of a spelling bee at Angels that we organized last year. It weren't made up of gentle kids, of pretty kids like you, but gents has had their regular growth and some enough for two. There was Lanky Jim of Sutter Fork and Bilson of LaGrange, and Pistol Bob who wore that day a knife by way of change. You start, you little kids, you think these are not pretty names, but each had a man behind it, and my name is Truthful James. There was a Poker Dick from Whiskey Flat, and Smith of Shooter's Bend, and Brown of Calaveras, which I want no better friend. Three-fingered Jack, yes, pretty dears, 3 fingers, you have 5. Clap, cut off 2, it's singular too, that Clap ain't now alive. 'Twas very wrong indeed, my dears, and Clap was much to blame, likewise was Jack in after years for shootin' of that same. The nights was kinder lengthening out, and the rains had just begun, when all the camp came up to Pete's to have their usual fun. But we all sot kinder sad-like around the bar-room stove, till Smith got up, promiscu-like, and this remark he hove. There's a new game down in Frisco, that as far as I can see, beats euchre, poker, and Van Toon, and they calls the spellin' bee. Then Brown of Calaveras simply hitched his chair and spake, "Poker's good enough for me," and Lanky Jim says, "Shake." And Bob allowed he weren't proud, but he must say right there that the man who tackled euchre had his education square. This brought up Lenny Fairchild, the schoolmaster, who said he knew the game and he would give instructions on that head. For instance, take some simple word, says he, like separate. Now who can spell it? Dog my skin if there was 1 in 8. This set the boys all wild at once. The chairs was put in row, and at the head was Lanky Jim, and at the foot was Joe. And high upon the bar itself was the schoolmaster raised, and the barkeep put his glasses down and sat and silent gazed. The first word out was parallel, and 7 let it be, till Joe waltzed in his double betwixt the A and the E. For since he drilled them Mexicans in San Jacinto fight, there weren't no prouder man than got up Pistol Joe that night. Till rhythm came, he tried to smile, and then said they had him there. And Lanky Jim, with one long stride, got up and took his chair. Oh, little kids, my pretty kids, 'twas touchin' to survey these bearded men with weepons on like schoolboys at their play. They'd laugh with glee and shout to see each other lead the van, and Bob sat up his monitor with a cue for a rattan. Till the chair gave out incinerate, and Brown said he'd be derned if any such blamed word as that in school was ever learned. When phthisis came, they all sprang up and vowed the man who rung another blamed Greek word on them be taken out and hung. As they sat down again, I saw in Bilson's eye a flash, and Brown of Calaveras was a twist in his mustache. And when at last Brown slipped on niece and Bill took out his chair, he dropped some casual words about the folks who dyed their hair. And then the chair grew very white, and the chair said he'd adjourn, but Poker Dick remarked that he would wait and get his turn. Then with a trembling voice and hand and with a wandering eye, the chair next offered Eider Duck, and Dick began with I. And Bison smiled, then Bison shrieked, just how the fight begun, I never know, for Bison dropped and Dick he moved up one. Then certain gents arose and said they'd business down in camp, and as the road was rather dark and as the night was damp, they'd hear up got and 3-fingered Jack and locked the door and yelled, "No, not one mother's son goes out until that there word is spelled." But while the words were on his lips, he groaned and sank in pain, and sank the Webster on his chest and Worcester on his brain. Below the bar dodged Poker Dick, and tried to look as he was hunting up authorities that no one else could see. And Brown got down behind the stove, allowing he was cold, till it upsot and down his legs the cinders freely rolled. And several gents called order, till in his simple way, poor Smith began with "Order, F-O-R, and he was dragged away. Oh, little kids, my pretty kids, down on your knees and pray. You've got your education in a peaceful sort of way. And bear in mind there may be sharps as slings their spellin' square, but likewise slings their bowie knives without a thought or care. You want to know the rest, my dears? That's all in me, you see, the only gent that lived to tell about the spellin' bee. He ceased and passed, that truthful man. The children went their way, with downcast heads and downcast hearts, but not the sport or play. For when at eve the lamps were lit, and supperless to bed, each child was sent with tasks undone and lessons all unsaid, no man might know the awful woe that thrilled their youthful frames, as they dreamed of Angel Spelling Bee and thought of truthful James. Well, I hope you enjoyed that one, and sounds like a right down raucous time at the Key Row. And I'll see you next time. Have a lovely afternoon. Goodbye.